Hey everyone, welcome back. So give people a minute here to join in, and welcome to the first actual Shopside chats. Actually, in the shop tonight. This is not a green screen behind me. So I guess I kind of sort of have multiple shops going on. Tonight we'll be talking about kind of the project that got me started in the hobby. My other bee. Um, so thanks for joining. Hopefully everyone is getting a little bit better weather there where you guys are at. Weather's been better here, much warmer. Hey Lane, good to see you. So it's been cold again the last couple days, but they're talking 50s, 60s, I think even 70 maybe by next weekend. So that will be wonderful. I'm running out of firewood. So this warm weather really needs to come in because yeah, I bet I only have like a cold week's worth left. Um, hey Steve, good to see you. Hyatt, where spring has sprung in Florida. I hope so down that south. I mean, I know you guys were pretty cold. I think the last chat that we guys had, last live stream. Um, So you guys will see. I got the 35A and the 37B in my garage here. I have started working on them earlier than expected, so hopefully I will have some videos coming soon talking about them. Um, looks can be deceiving on them. I was, I keep talking about wanting to do like a cutaway tractor. I thought the 37B might be that case. It's not. It's going to be saved. The 35A, I'm about ready to send it to the scrapper right now, just out of frustration. But yeah, we'll talk about that maybe later. And like I said, I'll have some videos coming soon. So. Uh, what else? What else is going on in your guys' neck of the woods? Anything? Anyone getting ready for a plow day or anything? I know there's two I'm looking into going to. I saw another one, but it was like 2.5 hours away. I think that's too far away for me. Um, yeah, I fueled up the 39A yesterday. I took it for a ride with my boys, and we were, I don't know, a quarter mile from the farm, maybe I'd say a half mile from the farm. And we were on the hillside and all of a sudden it started puttering. I knew I was low on gas. I told my son, get up on top of the hill where it's flat. So that fuel runs to the bottom of the tank again. So we did that. And I barely got it back to the farm lane. And then it died as soon as I went over this hill. And then I coasted it back down to the shop. And then I threw the clutch in right at the end and had gotten enough fuel to get me in the shed. So I kind of chuckled, but um, so it's here plow day in Hobbsville. Yeah, Steve, is that the? I'm trying to think. I think you had a plow day video last year. That would look like a pretty big plow day. So that looked real interesting. On the eastern shore of Virginia. Found a set of tires for your farm. We'll see. There you go. Getting rid of the mismatch set. So you were in the hospital last week. Well, I hope you're out, and I hope everything's better, man. So, hey, Kenny, good to see you. Appreciate you all coming. So yeah, before we get into kind of this month's feature topic, how I got into the hobby and so on. So I won't give away everything, but the 37B, I've got that freed up. I've broken a thing or two on it, but it's going to be saved. It's pretty good inside. The transmission is flawless on it. The engine just needs cleaned up and whatever. The 35A, so what's given me the biggest grief of my life is getting the right brake out. Because I got to get the right brake off in order to get that first reduction gear cover off, and the right brake just won't come out. I have broken it in so many ways, it's not even funny, and the dang thing um, won't come out. I mean, it started to. I've got it that far out from its mating surface. I've got about that far, unfortunately, to go, and I bet I've pounded on it for an hour. When I say pounded on it, I mean like I've got the sledgehammer. I've got my wife, annoyed and holding the bar while I pound the bejesus out of it. It is just stuck, and it's stuck all the way. I don't get it. So antique tractors with one wheel on the grave. That's pretty good. So, it's here and there. Planning to beat the world record for formal tractors in a parade at the Gray Show. Me and I are excited. Cool. Cool. It's interesting. Feel like maybe it's just me. Maybe, I don't know, it's the Facebook communities or so on. I don't feel like we hear too much about parades because I guess they're not typically like parades aren't super tractor heavy. Um, but world record for number of farmwell tractors in parade. Yeah, I'll have to look up and see how that pans out. So, um, 1 second here. And so yeah, the 35A. Sorry, over here. Trying to think, it won't free roll again. So if you remember when I had the video, it was stuck, and right before it got on the trailer, I was pulling it on. It like something broke free. Well, it obviously whatever broke free in it, like still is providing a lot of resistance because I cannot just roll it in. I ended up having to push it into the garage here with our big tractor. I don't get it, and I thought that's where I was also focused on getting that brake out because I thought maybe some resistance in that brake or something, but I've got the brake completely out. And someone before me tried to get that brake out and couldn't do it either because the gear on the inside, they had the cotter pin out of it, but yeah, so I was able to just spin the nut off and take the gear off, but even then, it just wouldn't come out. So, club in Australia holds the world record. Wow, who would have guessed that? But you read like what's his name? Ken Nicholas, like in Green Magazine, and I've seen him some on like the Two Cylinder Facebook group. I guess there's a pretty good John Deere following down there too. Um, so yeah, that's good. Yeah. Do you guys know what the record is? Most number of farmwell tractors in a parade? Just to hear what that is. So, all right, on to tonight's feature, talking about how I got started in the hobby. Let's see if I can figure out how to show this again. Let's see here. Mhm. Yeah. All right. Whoa, it's like the infinite screen. So back in 2019, that was an exciting month for me. Three big things happened February of 2019. It started off at the beginning of February, so this It says this was February 2nd, Groundhog Day. I went to a sale, an estate sale. No plans to buy anything. I just went with my father-in-law and, just something to do, cold winter day. And I walk up and then here is this bee. Now, I'll give you a little background. Um, I've born and raised to bleed green. I always wanted a John Deere bee. Don't ask me why. Just something about the proportions or something. My eye always liked whatever. Always wanted one. Just never got one. Came close a couple times when I was younger. My parents or grandparents, almost getting me one, and just yeah, never did. So go to this sale, and here's this bee, and I look at the price tag, and it was $300, and I said sold. Like $300, what a deal! Worst like inner voice in my life, but so I went, and I was so excited. Paid for it, and don't want to end it here. The rest is history, but the rest is kind of history at that point. Yeah, I was just so excited to get that day completely locked up. Been sitting there for who knows how many years. We went to load it on a trailer, and even the rear axles, like it would not free roll. So we had to lift it on the trailer. Um, yeah, little did I know how much this little bee would end up costing me in frustration and so on, but it was more of a learning experience than I would have ever anticipated. Um, and even when I got this, like, I always wanted to be, but I never planned on it expanding any further than, this was always the one tractor I wanted. Um, so here's another look at it. You saw that the one tire on it was backwards. Um, it was complete. The tin didn't look too bad on it, but again, that fooled me because it was pretty thin in some places, especially up around um, like the top of the grills and things like that. But yeah, so we got it in the shop a couple weeks later, and I'll give you guys a safety share here. And this is how the hobby almost ended as soon as it started, and almost ended me. So we got it, and I went to pump up the tires, and I remember the valve stem was somewhere down here on the bottom. So we ran the line out from the shop, and I was blowing it up, and I had my head tucked in, behind here because I was reaching underneath to inflate the tire, and the tire blew. Luckily, it blew out at the top on the other side, and if I recall right, it didn't sound. I knew it was loud, but it didn't sound that loud to me because I was on the other side of the tire. But then I heard the echo off the hillside come back to me, and I was like, "That was loud." And then my father-in-law came running around the building, making sure I was still alive. So ever since then, I am very hesitant to pump up old tires, just because that was a scary moment for me. Day one, before we even got it in the shop, first time ever really, truly trying to work on one of these. That was almost the end of it. So we got it in the shop, and then before I even knew what I was doing, I just started tearing it apart. Just I was like, "Well, tear it all apart, and we'll figure it out later, right?" And this tractor was just in horrible condition. You can see here everything inside was rust. The transmission was just awful. Um, the engine, I have wood in here from I think when I was trying to pound out the pistons and so on. The oil lines, when I went to go put this back together, I found that the oil lines had rusted through and I had to replace the oil lines. It was just bad, in just so many ways. That I joke nowadays that the tractor is more new, like replacement parts um, than original parts, unfortunately. So, um, yeah, the transmission, I'm not joking when I say it had, these tractors condensate and build water and so on. It had an at least 3/4 of an inch of sediment in the bottom, of rust sediment. And I still have a chunk of it in my office at work. Don't ask me why I kept that. But it was like, I'm not talking like loose, like sand, like it was like a chunk, and it was just thick. And so everything that sat in the bottom, like inch and a half to 2 inches in the transmission, just sat in water and was completely destroyed. All the bearings, the gears weren't great, um, but yeah. The so after, I mean, really, I started painting that tractor in 2020, so it only took me about a year and a half really to kind of get it back. I'm still waiting on the grills and the nose cone are the only thing left. I don't have a picture of it right now, but everything's on it. The hood is on it. I know I don't have a video of when I did some of the sheet metal. I was waiting to do that, but I'm just waiting on the grills and the nose cone, and then decals. By golly, I hope that tractor is done. I mean, it's been 7 years in the making. Um, but yeah, I painted that tractor myself, which I don't think I ever plan to do again. Um, yeah, so 110 tractors. That's a good number of tractors in a parade. So, but hmm, okay. So there you go. That's how the hobby started. What was it? I had the B, and then eventually there was a sale with a bunch of John Deere's, and then that's how I got the 39A, which had the corn picker on it at the time. I'd planned to flip it, and then I fell in love with it. Um, yeah, the rest has just been history at that point. So yeah, I'm curious. I mean, maybe a little long-winded, but feel free to drop in the chat what however you guys got started in the hobby, or first tractor or anything like that. I'm curious. Uh, Anybody going to, probably not in this group, gathering of the green out in Iowa in a few weeks? It's too far for me. Really want to go, but don't really want to give up a whole weekend and travel and cost and everything to do that. So yeah, I worked on the high crop for a full day the other day, and boy, that was nice. I haven't worked on the high crop in a long time, not like a whole day like that. Just because that I've had that tractor 2 years now, but the last year or so, I had just haven't had too much time. Well, I had time last spring to work on it, but once the synchros went out on the 3010, that was kind of the end of that. All my efforts were either working on the 3010, or a little bit on the high crop, or just farming and things like that. So yeah, finally working on the high crop again. It was nice. I don't think too many people saw the seat video, rebuilding the seat, but at the end, I sat on the high crop once I got the seat back on, and I thought about it beforehand, but right before I went to put it on, I was like, I've had this thing 2 years, and I think I only before I put the seat on, I'd only sat on it once because we bought it. I sat on it, when we got it, and then I immediately tore it off, because I needed to get in the transmission. So the seat comes off, the rock shaft comes off. So I've had this tractor 2 years, and I'd never even sat on it except the first day. So it's nice to just, it's the little milestones, right? You get a seat on it, you maybe get the steering wheel on it, or you get your engine put together and things like that. Um, but it is a little scary sitting up there with no fenders. and so on. It's pretty high up there. So yeah, classic green in Perry, Georgia, 2027. Absolutely planning to go to that. Skeptical whether I'll take something that far because I think it's like I want to say like a 12 or 13-hour drive for me. So 2002 or 2003, Dad took you to the Sunbelt Ag Expo in Georgia. Saw your first antique tractor parade, and there you go, hooked ever since. Sometimes that's all it takes, right? And so, um, and anytime I go to shows or anything like that, I want to put a focus on, kids either sitting on the tractor or I don't know. I mean, not everyone can hand start a tractor or something, but just anything like that, just to help, keep the hobby going. It's just very important. Hook since you could walk, Kenny. Um, yeah, yeah. So, like I said, my grandfather was a farmer in Illinois, so that's where I'm originally from. Illinois. That's where my family's from. I was born there, but I was 2.5 when we moved away from there, so it was kind of like a long distance interest, and I could only went to shows and things like that when I was visiting in town and things like that. But turning on wrenches on them when I was 11 or 12. Yeah, I just that's where it helps to have someone to do that and teach you and so on. You know, that's where with like my grandpa being long, distance, I just didn't have that readily available. And where we lived, we had a tiny garage in a, close neighborhood. There you weren't gonna have tractors there. Though I remember my dad one time we passed it was a John Deere MT that was for sale for like $1,000. I mean, this was probably around 98, 99, something like that. And it was beautiful. And my dad, I think he still says he would have bought it, but like, what were we going to do with it? We had no room for it or place for it or anything like that. So it's all a timing thing. So yeah. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you talking about your dad a little bit, Kenny. In one of the videos, he wasn't super mechanical. So yeah, that's what it takes. That's the way my father-in-law is. I think he'll admit that. I'm more the let's tear into things and fix it and fix it right and so on. Don't just put baler twine around it, though. I am very guilty of that too. When you're in the heat of the moment of hay season or something like that, I think the tedder one time broke. This is when I just started on the farm around here helping out, and instead of calling to ask him for help, I just wrapped my T-shirt around something. I tied it and held it together. I think he jokes he was never more proud of me than that moment. So sometimes it's just what gets the job done on the day, but we're not that great then at like fixing stuff in the winter and things. So and I'm working on these rather than probably doing preventative maintenance and things like that on some of our equipment. But yeah, luckily there's a good community out there to help. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to think what else is going on. I got the mag off the BO here. I need to figure out why that's not giving me spark. Then I need to order a carb kit for the BO because I'd like to get that running soon. We'll maybe probably get a engine gasket kit for the B here, and I don't know. I may want to take a little bit more apart in the engine um, before putting that back together. Um, There you go. Kenny is looking for Farm LC 61454. Yeah. That's why, like, even when I got these tractors, like, I posted the serial numbers because you never know where they came from, what their history is, and I'd love for someone to show up that knows, anything about them. This A, it had a rough life. The more and more I looked into it, like this thing was beat. You can't tell with the camera, but you'll see in upcoming videos, like the front end was ripped off of that, um, and it's been welded up, and who knows what else. Holes have been drilled into the frame. The pulley on it, where the brake pad is super worn. Um, that yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, the 35A is not my friend right now. I was hoping for better, but with it not free rolling, the transmission doesn't look that. It's not bad, but we'll see what happens in the end. I do not want to be putting new bearings and everything else in that. Is there a long lost tractor you wish you could track down, or you are slapping yourself for letting it go? I don't think so. There's one I'm still trying to get. I know I mentioned it in the last couple live streams. The owner hasn't won't call me back. So maybe the day will come. Um, there is a family tractor that I desperately want at some point. I know where it's at, so that's all I'll say there. Um, but no, nothing. Trying to think of any auctions or anything like that. I don't think there's any that oh, no, I will take that back. So then again, the hobby, like, this wouldn't be the hobby for me now. So before I got my B, so before 2019, there was another auction, and someone there, um, had a B, and it was all painted up and so on, and it went for, like, less than 2,000 or something. I knew it was a good deal, and I wasn't there for it, at the auction. I showed up, like, late, and I that was one I was kicking myself, especially knowing what I've put into my B and so on. It maybe would have been a little bit nicer of an intro than, you know, having one that took a couple years to put back together and so on. So yeah, Lane, it is a BO. So that's where, like I said, I brought the mag home today. I need to open it up and see why I'm not getting spark, freshen it up, and then I'm gonna order a carb kit probably this week. And I figure I will learn how to rebuild a carburetor. I got the drill bits to do the passages and things like that. So in a perfect world, probably pushing it. Yeah, that's pushing it by our next live stream. I might have attempted at having it run, um, but we'll see. But yeah, because if I get it running, I like to take it to maybe a show this spring, or if it runs really well, I could take it to one of the plow days. Um, but I'm trying to think what else on it, because that tractor, it's in nice condition, really. I mean, the fenders are beat up a little bit on it, but everything else just seems really nice. Uh, But yeah, and oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, this will take me away. So I don't even have videos on it. We have a case 1594 bigger tractor with like a loader. I got to put that engine back together. I've got the head off, the injection pump off on it. I got to put all that back together. We did that back in the fall. I took that apart, and it's in a unheated shop, so I just haven't gotten back to it. We've got all the parts and gaskets to put it back together, but call me a little bit of a baby, but I wasn't working in a cold shop. Um, Getting a little privileged now, I guess. Um, so I will have a video on that, but I know it's not my normal like viewer base or what have you. So that'll take me away probably for at least one weekend or two. So I'll be slowing up on the videos here just because I don't have as much going on, or even when I get done in a weekend, like I worked on the high crop this weekend, but it wasn't worth like its own dedicated video. Um, it's a 1970 John Deere 2520. Um, Nothing special about it. Gas, synchro. Um, but yeah, owned since new. Last tractor that was sold at the local dealership in town before it closed. Um, yeah, arrow front. Uh, that was the last tractor that my grandpa farmed with. I mean, he had a 4230, but he sold that when he sold the farm. So how my grandpa worked it up is he don't know what he had before the 60, but he had a 60, and then he traded that in for a John Deere 4000, and then at some point, I'm trying to think of when. I'm not sure what year that 4000 was. I never asked him. But then he got the 2520 new, and then eventually, I believe he traded the 4000 for a 4230. Then he sold the farm in '92. Got out of farming then, and yeah. So, what about you guys? And any other tractors you guys are hunting down, other than Kenny and his family tractor? Um, yeah, excited for this warmer weather. We're calving. I don't really have much to do with that right now. I used to have more to do with that when we lived on the farm a few years ago, and then we used to calve in February, but now it's done in March. But with the kids and everything, I'm not around the farm day to day like I used to be. Um, yeah, I don't know. Guess I don't have too much to talk about tonight. Um, Kenny, how's things going with the M? I think I saw. Oh, by the way, Kenny, condolences on losing your dog, of course. Sorry to hear about that. So, hi, Dave. Good to see you. I'd like to find the 520 that your grandpa bought new. That'd be cool. Not, I don't see too many 520s. That the B series, B 50 520. By the time we got to the 20 series, the that small of a tractor it seemed like got less popular, just because the farms were getting bigger. They wanted the 620, the 720, and things like that. Um, Alice Chalmers C 67 or 68. That's a long time ago. So Baker, Oregon area. Okay. Yeah, sadly, in today's world, tractors, all it takes is one sale, and it could be across the country. Unfortunately, um, So, well, hope you guys find those tractors. Um, yeah, but trying to think what else. So the next live stream will be in April. Yeah, or melted into a toaster if it goes to the scrap man. Yeah, yeah. Sadly, I think that happens to all too many, and fortunately, people send them to the scrapper and they don't even pull parts off of them or anything. I get it. It's frustrating, but unfortunate. So, um, I think what else is going on here right now. I think that's about it. Unfortunately, yeah. But okay. So there's a Twin City MT and a Case RC on an online auction. I'm afraid we'll go to scrap at the prices they are at. Yeah. What year did the vintage tractor hobby really take off? Uh, I don't know. It need to be someone older than me that answers that question. I know in the 90s, okay, originated in the 50s, really. I know in the 90s, I read prices were insane. Um, yeah, like just your average tractors, even, not accounting for inflation, like a B was like $4 or $5,000 or something like just crazy. And then I think it really, unfortunately, been a slow downhill slope since the 90s. But Kenny, I don't know if you or anyone else can provide perspective on that. That's just before my time, unfortunately. That's cool, Dave. You got at least one tractor that your grandpa bought new, 47A. Is it what do I want to say here? Is it a late styled A or was it a pre late style because they had the split that year? Um, so is it a press steel frame or I forget if the last ones, I think the last ones were they cast. I know John Deere went between like cast and um, angle iron frame rails and things like that. They were having Golden Day steam threshing festivals in the 50s. Oh, Old Day. I don't think it was on the scale that it is now. Interesting. And to think, even at that time, right? Like 50s, how far back do you go with the olden days? I guess, early 1900s before any, equipment or machinery or anything. Like just comical if like we are getting to the point where you got to go back, much further, sort of, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not into crop farming, but the planters and stuff like that today with all the technology, it is, um, I'm sure so different. But when I think of 40 years ago, farming, you're in your 80s then. So I guess, you were starting to have your big horsepower and big equipment and things like that. Um, so early style, okay, yeah. So it's earlier 47. Threshing festivals really took off in the late 70s into the 80s. Huh. 1954. Interesting. Well, it's good to know that, even people back then like to, see how things were done historically. But, yeah. Well, anyone else got any questions? Otherwise, we might wrap it up here a little bit early tonight. Kind of tired. Not looking forward to going to work tomorrow, but gotta gotta pay those bills and the hobby, right? Um, well, yeah. It's funny. I think I talked about this before in one of my other live streams, but steel wheels are just, they're not the fad anymore, unfortunately. Like this bee has the skeleton steel on it. Um, and yeah, you just, you don't see them, unfortunately. Um, Imagine how many tractors we lost during the metal scrap drives from World War II. Yeah, probably some rare early ones, right? Um, or just, at any time throughout history when, metal has been high and things like that. But you're right. Some of these tractors, you wonder how many decades they've just been, sitting in the weeds. Um, yeah. Yep. Got to know someone that knows someone, and you know, a lot can be hiding in the bushes. I'm trying to think of who had a YouTube video. I can't remember who it was now, where they got a tractor and it was literally like buried in bushes, like layers of bushes. And it was like if the owner didn't know it was back there, like who knows when someone would have found it. They had to like cut the forestry to get to it and everything. I forget who had that. I will not share its location. Hmm. Is it the owner that shares the photos though, or it's probably someone else who has posted the pictures, yeah, and wants it. So, huh? Yeah, I forgot to turn the furnace off. So, okay. Well, like I said, I may be a little light on the videos over the next month or so. Um, yeah, landowner won't sell it. That's unfortunate, but different motives, different reasonings. Um, yeah, so hopefully someone will get it someday, and we'll see it saved. So yeah, that's what's hard because some of the tractors, like, I mean, I mentioned some of these, they sat outside and it's just like, gosh darn it, like, they could have been in either A, so much better condition if they would have just been buttoned up, sealed up even a little bit, or, time just takes its effect. I mean, we talked about my bee earlier, just the condensation over the decades that's sitting outside, just rusted all the bearings and gears and things like that in the bottom of the transmission. So, unfortunately, just being outside is not great. So, huh? Very rare, very large. Yeah, yeah. I don't blame him for not sharing the location. So, hmm. Well, all right. With that, well, we may end it for this week. So appreciate, or this month, really appreciate everyone joining. Um, feel free to reach out, any questions or anything like that. Let me know if there's a topic maybe I could cover for next month's. This month I talked about the bee that got me started in the hobby. I may put out a few feeler Q&A stuff. On a post or something like that. So, something to spark some conversations next time. But yeah, I hope you all have a good month. Enjoy this better weather. Um, get those tractors out, get them ready for show season and springtime and everything else. Um, and hopefully see some of you guys somewhere around the country here this year. Um, yeah, again, I'll mention it. I know you guys are kind of all over the Eastern Expo in Lancaster, Ohio, kind of near Columbus. That'll be the big show I plan to go to this year. So, yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Lane, Hyatt, Kenny, Dave. We'll make sure I get everyone. So, really appreciate everyone coming. Tell your friends. We'll keep doing this every month for now. I've got a couple of other live stream ideas that I think would be neat to do, but we'll maybe talk about that later. Sadly, that'll I think require more projects at this point because it's too late to do some of the ideas that I had. So with that, you all have a good night. We'll catch you next month. Thanks for joining. Stay safe. See ya.